part of that event. So you guys will be a part of that if you choose to be, right? Yes?
Yes.
So there are actually there are a lot of famous quotes by Mandela. One of them that I love is Mandela said, "In my country you go to prison first and then you become president." So remember that. You can become president. And then the other one, and this is the quote that was mentioned, he has a very famous quote where he says, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." So however you guys want to respond to that, whether you want to create a performance around that, write a poem about it, write a play, essay, whatever it is, the idea is for you to respond to that quote and share what that means, and the world will see it on Mandela Day. Sound good?
Sound good.
So tell me, what are some of you guys really interested in, education-wise? What makes you excited? What do you love to learn about? Don't get all shy out of that.
Okay, maybe Filipino need to exercise your ass. How about you tell the long story?
Okay.
You know you have a shot.
Yes.
Then,
So actually, yeah, it's relevant to that. I know you guys are gonna stop being shy on me soon. But so there's one of the keynote speakers. We're hoping to get somebody you might have heard of named Barack Obama.
Yes.
We're hoping. So you can add your prayers to mine, and hopefully we'll get him in the prison with us for Mandela Day. But we are definitely having somebody who in my mind is just as famous. His name is Davao Simmons. He's actually he's one of the 2 students from the program graduating next week. He's studying criminal justice. And Davao went to prison at 17 years old. He was sentenced to 18 years, and he served 15 and a half years in prison in New York. And in that time, he became a student in our program. He won awards. He made the dean's list. I was looking at that amazing dean's list outside. He won an award for the best student writing of the year in the whole university. And then the day that he was released, he was actually kidnapped at the gates of the prison and shot 3 times. And that happened in October. He survived. He never went back for revenge, never even thought about it, never got back involved in any of that, lifestyle. And a few months later, he was in school, even though his arm was in a sling. That was January. A year later, he became the first graduate of the prison to college pipeline and got his associate's, his 2-year degree. He's now about to get his 4-year degree, and he's likely going to go on for his Ph.D. So he's also he came to South Africa with me. He went to the prison there. He passed his diploma around the room, and everybody looked at it like it was made of gold. They couldn't even imagine the people in the prison there that they could be university students, as you guys all are. They were completely blown away. And then he went to Cuba. He went to the UK, to London and to Birmingham inside the prison, also talking about the power of education. Then actually last month, he went to Jamaica, to the prison in Jamaica, which actually reminds me quite a bit of this prison, quite similar, crowded. And he went to 7 prisons in Jamaica to speak again about the prison to college pipeline, the power of education behind bars. And he's now named himself global. I knew there was at least one poet in here. Every prison I go to, there's some incredible poetry. I just found out this morning that one of the students in my class, I teach writing, I'm an English professor, one of the students in my class just won an award from the English department for a poem that he wrote for me, an amazing poem. So that made my day. Can you share a poem? Do you have any on you? I know you must have some
the one who made the essay.
Oh, you won
took a
the,
picture.
you have the winning, I took a picture of that
Yeah,
essay.
she took the
That's a beautiful piece. Can we read it in South Africa?
Wow.
Do I have permission?
It has been honor.
Beautiful. Amazing.
There we go.
Can you read it?
Education is freedom. Education is freedom in the sense that it cannot be caged. Thoughts and ideas cannot be caged. I believe it will liberate us from ignorance and help decrease, if not stop, the cycle of criminality. I observed that most of the inmates here at Davao City Jail have not finished their studies or have not received or have no educational data at all. That is where education behind bars come in. It will help inmates who are enrolled in the program to better themselves, to train them for job, interview, and social skills that are needed to survive in society. Education is the key to put a halt or minimize the recidivism rate of inmates. This also gives us an opportunity to redeem ourselves and to give justice to the people who are helping us while we are being incarcerated. To stop the lock them up and throw away the key mentality. Because it is we, the people who are inside jails, that mostly need education. Because education will be the one that can break the shackles that binds us and the cells that divides us. I want to express my gratitude to the saints that fought against all odds to push through the Education Behind Bars program. Without them, we would still be doing nothing with our lives. They are the ones that continually gives us hope, gives us a second chance, and sees past behind our criminal records. This proves to me that my past failures are not fatal.
So does anybody want to respond to that Nelson Mandela quote, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world?
Education is the most powerful weapon because when we were outside, we never thought of having a college degree, and we never thought of having a college degree. But when we came here and we are rehabilitated, because almost all of us are drug users. This school, especially our recovery class, gave us another chance to redeem ourselves from the society, for our family, to regain their trust, to have their trust back to us, and that quote is perfect because when we get out of this prison, this education will give us power over everything outside. It will defend us.
That's beautiful. I like the idea that education is giving you power.
It's true.
Come on.
That's true.
Come on, Mark. Not as being this loose.
So my idea about education is powerful to change something in the world is that it's really for me it's still surreal that I am lingering this privilege for a lifetime, but then again it truly gives me that reality that I need to live with it with dedication and motivation, because for me it's really has that power for me to change, and then having this opportunity, it really given me a lot of encouragement to prove something to myself, not only to myself, but to those people who criticize us because of our status, because we are all incarcerated here. But then again, if we are able to fulfill such motivation, or we are able to we bring that motivation into reality, I think the negative idea about us will be changed, and that change will boost our confidence to stand in our feet again with dignity and pride. I think that will be all.
Anyone else?
What was the saying again? Sorry. Education is the most powerful weapon that can change the world. I believe it's true because in my current situation right now, the college behind bars, I can say that it can alter the perspective of what an inmate is. Because if without this program, we would be just ordinary inmates or detainees. But now, since we are here, so now we are here. We are under this program. We can say that even as an inmate, we can live a normal life while inside the jail. So it changes the perspective, the perception of who I am or who we are. So we are given that chance to to rebuild ourselves and to share to the outside world that we are still here. We are also human beings that has the right to be educated. We are also human beings that we have families outside. So we're not really criminals. We just did bad decisions. We just made bad decisions.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah. So that's it.
I love it. I'll tell you something funny. Whenever I teach inside the prison, in the beginning, the students in my class will always write, in America, I imagine here too, you get a prison ID number. It's called a DIN number. And the students will hand in their papers and they write their DIN numbers on it along with their names. And I'm always saying to them in the beginning, I don't need your DIN number. I don't care about your prison number. I need your name, your first name, not your prison nickname, not your last name, which all the officers call you, your first name. And it's always a really amazing day when they finally hand in a paper that has their first and last name on it and not the prison number, because it's exactly what you're talking about. That's the moment where you're not an inmate, right? You're a student. You're not a criminal. You're not a detainee. You're not even a person deprived of liberty. You're a student. So remember that, first and foremost, you are a student.
I don't think so we have the number here, right?
It's not so organized.
Yeah, we don't use that. At the beginning, I did ask their profile, but after they admit, we don't have those name words or anything. We just go there first and the last name. That's what the university requires. So yes, and the good thing is that because there's misperception about the college education behind bars. Like
One of the first students, early students in the program, he went to prison when he was young, early 20s, and he actually mainly went to prison because he was desperate and he took a plea bargain. And he, instead of fighting the case, because he was in a place called Rikers Island. Anybody heard of Rikers Island? No. Rikers Island is one of the worst jails in the world. It's right in New York City. At one point it had almost 20,000 people in it. Now it has almost 10,000 people in it. It's one of the largest jails in the world. And it's actually right in the heart of New York City, but so many people don't even know where it is because they don't want to see it, right? Unless they have a reason to know, everyone just pretends it doesn't exist. And when you fly out of this, there's an airport, LaGuardia Airport in Queens, and when you fly out, you get a whole look at it, and for many people that's the only time, unless it's, but now, as more and more people in New York are affected by the criminal justice system, suddenly people know where Rikers Island is, right? And it's a very violent place. In fact, it's so violent that the mayor of New York City has now vowed to shut it down. They're going to close Rikers. They started a whole campaign, and they're going to close Rikers Island. So he was in this place. He was facing, violence, his life at risk. It was overcrowded at the time, gangs, all kind of. So he desperately took a plea bargain. He ended up going to prison. He became part of the program. And actually, he'll be mad at me for telling this story, but the first grade he got, he cried because it was a B+. Which is a great grade, right? But he wanted that A. In the end, he got the A, but he cried because he was so invested in being a good student. And he came out, and it wasn't easy, the path for him. His family, he didn't have a great relationship with his family, and they judged him for having done time in prison. But he went on with school, he kept studying. He ended up graduating. He graduated last year with honors in philosophy. He came to England with me and spoke inside the prison there, spoke at a major university in Birmingham in the UK. And he's now about to start law school. And he's starting in the fall, and what he wants to focus on specifically is this issue of plea bargains. That you should only take a plea bargain if you really feel it's worth it. And he wants people to have access to lawyers, so he's going to be a defense lawyer, so that he could be what he didn't have, which was a good lawyer, right? And for years when he was in university, people told him, don't study law, you can't go into it, it's not a guarantee in America if you study law and you've been in prison that you can actually practice law. There are various barriers that they put into place that say that you might not be able to. But he didn't care. He said, I'm going to do this. And he would sometimes doubt himself, and he would come to me and he would say, Professor Boz, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't do this. And I always told him, you should do this. You're going to get into law school, you're going to get a scholarship, and there are enough lawyers out there who have your back, who have also been to prison, who are practicing law and being successful. So very excited when he starts in the fall. Should we give him a round of applause?
Yeah.
I have a million more stories about my students. I can talk to you guys all day about my students. They're my favorite people in the world, and they're superheroes, and so are you guys. Seriously.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What drives you to like us people?
Good question. People ask me that all the time. Well, I could also talk all day about that. Answer. But I think the first time when I first started going into prison and talking to people in prison, one of the things that struck me is how much brilliance and talent is being warehoused away behind bars, right? And it wasn't even a matter of feeling, sympathy or empathy for somebody in your position, although I feel that too. It was feeling like we as a society are the ones who lose if you're not free. Because look at all the talent in this room. Look at what you all could be contributing to the world, to society, if you were in the world. But instead you're stuck here. Exactly. And I also think it just doesn't make any sense, right? Why are we doing this to people who could be contributing in positive ways, who could be addressing whatever mistakes or whatever issues or whatever harm they may have caused to themselves or to others in ways that are productive, right? Like education. I mean, that's why, for me, education, not incarceration, is a literal thing. You can really prevent incarceration by educating people, and then instead of incarcerating them, send them to school, like what you guys are doing, right? Build schools. The other hashtag that I use all the time is schools, not prisons, right? That's what we need in the world, this. So that's the short answer, but there's so much short Anybody else have any questions about New York, about prisons in America or anywhere else in the world, or?
Don't be shy.
Where's the wood?
By the way, the documentary came out, so we'll show it to you sometime.
Yes.
Yes, you guys did a good job.
Yeah, that's
We
amazing.
show it there. It's 20 minutes, okay? So I'll make it available sometime.
Are there any messages you want to send back with me to my students in their college time?
Send our regards to them.
Yeah.
Tell them we can do this.
You're about to be on summer vacation.
Yes.
And
so are we.
Yeah. Well, when they come home, I'll tell them. As you can see, I take my students around the world with me, so hopefully that'll be you guys too. Right? But they have summer, actually they get mad at me in the summertime because we don't have classes in the summer months. And that's how you know somebody's a good student, when they're begging you for more class and more homework. Right? No other students out there in the world do that. Only in prison do students beg you for more homework, right? She knows what I'm talking about. In fact, they'll ask me, I've never taught in the university on the outside where I had a student beg me to mark up his paper more. He wanted more red pen on his paper. Right? And then they begged me for more reading assignments and all of that.
Nothing else to do.
Wait, what was that?
I don't have anything else to do when we don't have
If the students here if our professor told us that we have no class, so we're disappointed, we're sad, but if we're outside, if our professor told us that we have no class, we're so happy.
We celebrate.
We'll celebrate that there's no class, but here we're sad we have no class.
Exactly. Can I ask you, how many of you guys thought about going to university before you came to prison, before you came to jail, right? How many of you thought about going to university?
Before eskwela, before the prison.
Before prison.
You are.
University, that's that I didn't like.
You said.
You've thought about it.
How come you didn't like it before?
Now, it's good.
That's why you did the wrong choice, no?
Yeah, but everything has to happen in its timing, right?
Yes.
There's a right time and place. But for those of you who never thought about it, how come? Why?
The financial problem? Financial problem.
Financial constraint.
Mostly.
Financial problems? What else?
That's probably preoccupied with the drugs and substances. We're business parties.
We had messed up priorities.
Any other reasons? Did anybody grow up thinking, no, I can't, that's not for me, I can't reach that?
Yeah.
I don't think.
I was thinking of that because I already have my business and I'm earning money, so I don't have an education to have my business.
You'll just do your business.
I'll just do my business and I have my money. What kind of business? So I think the message that we would like to give for other students in other countries is that education may change what people think about us or your families think about you. But number one is education changes everything. Everything. It also changes you in your heart.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of my students in New York say that they never thought, you know, they come from, a lot of them come from backgrounds like most people in prison in the US and in most places around the world come from challenged backgrounds. They didn't grow up with a lot of money. They didn't grow up with access to things, right? They grew up struggling one way or another. And so they say that the idea that they could go to university wasn't even in their reality. It was like, that's what fancy people do. Exactly. That's what people with money do. That's what, you know, people from a certain class do. That's not for me. And a lot of them say that if they had had decent educations, they wouldn't have ended up in prison in the first place.
Yes.
Y'all agree?
Yes.
Accurate.
Yes.
Accurate. I mean, and they'll say, if I had had a good, even, you know, from young, they were in neighborhoods where the schools were not good. So they didn't have good teachers. They didn't have access to decent education opportunities, which is why I often say that our program is about giving them what they should have gotten in the first place, right? Everyone deserves access to good education. And yet, for some people in so many parts of the world, that's not the case, because you're not growing up in a community where that exists. So when you get it in prison, it's like, my students always say thank you to me for starting the program, or for teaching and coming into the prison and all of that. And I say, you don't have to thank me, you're getting what you deserve. This is what everyone deserves a good education. Everyone deserves access to university and to education.
Inside the jail, she was kind of early, and so, but she's also
More than
founder.
that, I said that's a lie, I don't even believe it.
She's a filmmaker, she's an author. She wrote a book called Journey to Justice. She traveled all over the world. She traveled 8-9 countries, Singapore, Thailand, Africa, and so on. She basically observed, write, and about the prison and how can we make it better, okay, and helped those, especially those are who less fortunate and made some mistakes, and help them and educate them and bring back to the society, be a contribute to the society. So if you have a question, you can ask Dr. Buzz, and of course Dr. Buzz will share some of, and she's also founder of a college in John Jay, right? Right?
Yeah, so I'm a professor at a university called John Jay College of Criminal Justice. It's in New York. I'm a New Yorker, proud New Yorker.
We call Yankees.
Yes. And I'm a Yankee fan. Probably the Yankee baseball fan. And at this university, I started a program similar to this one about 8 years ago. It's called the Prison to College Pipeline. So the idea of the program is that, and actually it's called that because in America we talk about something called the school to prison pipeline, which is the way that bad schools, in a way, prepare people to go to prison, right? If you don't have education, good education, that's a big part of why people land in prison altogether. So the idea of the program, the Prison to College Pipeline, is that everybody begins their university studies in prison, like here, and then they are guaranteed a place in university when they come home. So I teach inside the prison, and then I work with the students on the outside when they come home.
That's great.
Like it?
Yes.
So I'm glad I have your stamp of approval.
You moved to New York,
I would welcome all of you to come visit the program and what we do. Although we have incredible trouble finding a math professor, so I might have to say you're a professor. We offered math for the first time. Our classes are more, we offer everything. We offer sociology, I teach writing. Any writers in here?
Yes.
You gotta be proud. You have to stand up and say, I am a writer. That's a beautiful thing. Who's the writer? I won't put you on the spot, but we offer political science, history, sociology, anthropology, everything, criminal justice, theater, music, everything that students want to study. And then, you're a music fan? Music, nice.
No.
Patrick has very good essays, a writer.
Yeah?
Kenneth, pardon. Yeah.
Kenneth is a writer.
Yeah, he first essay was he got first place.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes, a good image.
Amazing.
Writing.
In the beginning?
Nice. Are there any poets? Does anyone write poetry? I know there's at least one poet. So guess what? I have two assignments for you. Everybody just looked at me funny now. You all liked me until I gave you an assignment. I'm just kidding. It's not really an assignment. It's just a request. So one of them is that I have students back in the prison in New York who know that I'm coming here, and they wanted me to kind of send their love and say how they support you, and they're proud of you, and they're studying alongside you 1,000,000 miles away. And so if there's anything that you want to send back, a message that you want to send back to them, I know they'll want to hear it.
Yes.
So that would be...
Well, you can write. You can write and give it to us, and I can give it to Dr. Boss. Dr. Boss gives it.
Yes.
So if you have it, you can give it to Blaze.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
you can, if you want.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Good, because they're inspired by what you're doing, and they don't even know you, but they consider you part of the same family, because you're living so much of the same thing, and your commitment to education is also what makes you family. We call ourselves a family.
We are family. We are a big family.
Exactly. So, and my other assignment is, does anybody know who Nelson Mandela is?
That's a Mandela.
Who is it?
President of Africa.
South Africa.
South Africa.
Yes, he was the president.
Yes.
He's their most famous president. He's probably the most famous president in the world, in history, right? And what's significant about him? What's the most famous thing about him?
He's a yes, but what makes him unique?
What makes him unique as a president? What was he most famous for? I mean, he's famous for a lot of things, but
Yes, right.
he was in prison for 26 years, right?
Yes.
And he has a lot of famous quotes. He was a freedom fighter. He fought against oppression in South Africa. He was on, his most famous prison that he was on is called Robben Island. But he spent 26 years, and he has he has a lot of famous quotes, but I was going to share two of them. One of them is, he has a quote where he says, "In my country, you go to prison first, and then you become president." So remember that. You all can become president.
Yes.
Just because you've been in prison does not mean you can't do whatever you want to do, right?
Yes.
And then he has another famous quote that I was going to ask you to respond to, however you want to respond to it. He says, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Anybody have any thoughts on that quote?
But if you can change the world, change yourself.
What was that? That was Say it again?
But before you change first the world, you must change yourself first.
Through education.
Through
Through
education.
education. That's it. But you know what? Changing yourself is changing the world,
Yes.
right? Because you are part of that world. By making yourself better, you make the world better. We're actually going to be celebrating, and I'm including you guys in this. So there's something called Mandela Day. Every year, his birthday is a national holiday in South Africa, and the world celebrates it too. And it's in July 18th. And this year, Mandela turns, well, he passed away, but he would have turned 100. So it's the Mandela Centennial. They're calling it the Year of Mandela. There's a big famous speech that gets given every year, and this year, the one who's giving it is Barack Obama. So it's a big deal. We're going to be celebrating it there with the theme of education, not incarceration.
Yes.
I'm asking you guys to be a part of it. I'm asking schools, students who are in prison in Brazil, in Jamaica, in Trinidad, in various parts of the world, Norway, Australia. I've met students who are studying in all of those countries' prisons, and everyone's going to be a part of this celebration. So whatever you guys want to do in response to that quote, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. You can write about it, you can perform, you could sing, you could, whatever you want to do, it will be part of our celebration. And our celebration is going to happen inside prison, and the world will see it. And it's going to be led by students who are studying in prison in South Africa as part of basically a college behind bars program. Sound good?
Great. Dr. Boz will display you guys in there, okay? So maybe you can, with the KB agribusiness class, and you can join together, come and play, or whatever you want to do. It has to do reflection of Mandela's quote.
Because actually Mandela studied, he was just like you guys. He studied at university while he was in prison. He did it by correspondence because they didn't have wonderful faculty members, professors coming in, because he was on a place called Robben Island. It was like they were really just trying to throw everybody away, right? Which is kind of what prisons try to do. Just pretend, yeah, just put them over there. Then we can forget about them, right? And so nobody wanted nobody could come across, but he studied anyway through correspondence. So you're all versions of Nelson Mandela.
Semester. Our final exam was actually an essay.
That's what I teach in the prison.
So they wrote essay of their life before the jail, during detention, and what they look forward to after detention. 4 of the essays were published in Mindanao Times, where I am also writing a column. Let me introduce. One was Medallia. The other one was Clyde Carsano. His work was also published, and I think the 4th one was Brenda, I think.
Amazing.
So they have
published writers.
Yes.
That's incredible.
They have, all of them are very good writers. We have to choose based on length and subject to editorial policies of the paper. But how I wish that I could have all their works published. But anyway, it has been a very great learning experience, and they've been asking me how much am I losing for spending a day without going to my office in Kalimantan. I said, I am not losing. Well, first, I am the only living lawyer in Kalinan. There were 3 of us. So I have clients today. All that my secretary has to do is you will go back tomorrow because attorney is still teaching at the city jail. So actually, I am not losing any income from the practice of my profession because in Kalinan they don't have any other choice. We have a short break for an ice cream break because they're done with the part 1 of the final examination.
Well done.
I did that because there was a time when I attempted to comply with the HR requirements for a paid teaching job. Anyway, there were technicalities and they will have difficulties. That was when I learned that there is a possible paid teaching job position. But there are problems with retroactive consideration of my application. So I said, there's no problem with me to volunteer my services for the past year. They said, are you interested to pursue with the application for the coming year? I said, I'm interested to continue teaching, but I'm not pursuing any application for a paid teaching job because I think I'm earning more as a volunteer. Thank you. So thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.